Hello, viewers, and welcome to Reminiscences. Today we're in Kaduna, where I'm speaking to Alhaji Inuwa Jibril, a veteran journalist for us in the profession, who was one of the pioneer staff of the Broadcasting Company of Northern Nigeria, from the early 60s. And he has served, as you will hear, many other roles, both in the media and in administration. As you know, I'd like to welcome you to the program. And looking at your early life, it appears that though a Kano man, you had a special experience of growing up in another part of the country, which is specifically in Benue State of these days. How did this come about?
Yes, it's quite correct. From Madabo in Kano. And we are all, our grandparents went out in spread of Islam through Kefi, then across the river Benue to Ampa in Kogi State today. From there, my own father was picked by the Europeans then, the colonialists then. He was in the Islamic, after finishing his Quranic education, he was picked that they would like him to work with them. And in those days, it's difficult for the Zaki to say something and somebody to say no.
Zaki is Baturi.
Baturi.
That is the white man.
That was the white man. Lion or Bandodo and so on, as they were called in those days. So that was in 1920. He served as a messenger to the DO then. Then he was taken to a place called Opoga in Benue State today. In one of the local, it used to be Idoma Division. Today is, I think, Opoku Division, in Benue State, southern Benue. That was in 1920. And as he told me, he was in the Quranic school when the late Emir of Zazzau, Alud and Sidi, was deported to Ampa, then to Lokoja. That was September 1920. From there, they moved to, the railway was established, completed from Kano to Enugu to Port Harcourt. So the headquarters was moved from Okoga to Otupo, which is today one of the headquarters of the local government. So they established the established the town of Otupo in the 20s, and he served there up to 1950. He was transferred to Makadi, back to Otupo. He retired in 1950. So I was born there in Benue, in Otupo. Went to the school there, a Catholic school, St. Mary's it was called. From there, I proceeded to the Benue Middle School in Katsina Ala.
Did this experience growing up
Yes.
in Benue State,
Yes.
among the Idoma, going to a Christian school,
Yes.
do you think it sort of defined you later in life?
Yes. One thing, learn to live, to understand the other side. But it did not affect me in any way, my religion or the way of, because my father kept saying, all I want you is get the education. But for your religious affairs, you will continue to remain as an Islamic. We used to go to the churches, sing their choirs and so on, everything. And during the examination, Christian religious questions and so on, I usually top in the class. And they will be wondering, here is a Muslim, he's not a Christian, and yet whatever is asked he's always first in the. From there, in fact, in those days, most of the teachers in the primary school, it was a Catholic school, Igbos from eastern Nigeria then. And I remember the headmaster, then one Mr. Uzo, I think he's from Oka. I don't know whether Oka South or North today, because it used to be Oka in those days. I was class monitor throughout. I'll come early in the morning, fetch water, go to the teacher, bring the register, sweep the class, and so on. So one morning, when I was in standard 4, he called me to his office. I was wondering for headmaster to what is it? He just drew his treble, gave me a ruler, pen and nib, then asked me to go to report to the Methodist school across the road. He didn't tell me what was. I was so scared. So I went and asked for the headmaster, one Mr. Onazi. He later became commissioner in Benue Plateau before his death.
So why was he doing you a favor by singling you out to go and take this exam?
Well, I wouldn't know, but I think one thing I know, I used to top the class throughout, up to standard 4 and so on. He just called me, I went there. And then the headmaster just, when I asked headmaster's office, I was shown, met the man. He said, "Are you Jibril?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Oh, come along." So he took me to a class. We were, I think, about six or five of us. He said we were sitting for examination to middle school Kasana Ala. And that was it.
So you didn't like to go to Kasana Ala?
I didn't like to go.
Why?
Because I was told that the chief chaps, we used to call them Munchi and so on,
Yes.
that they were cruel. They used to beat people. They eat millet food and all this and so on, you know.
But what was the actual experience? Did you hear you are House of Fulani schooling in all those areas?
I could, by virtue, I could speak Idoma, I understand Igbo, and so I can even tell which part of the state today Igbo man comes from, either Owerri or Onitsha or Enugu area. So blended, nobody, there was no, at least the favor they do, at least going to the classes, exempt me from going to their worship in churches and so on. I'll go my way. They say, "Oh, it's Allah Akbar." In other words, this Allah Akbar, they take it, they say, in the Allah Akbar, that way, Allah Akbar. So I'll be exempted. Otherwise, there was no, but I was the only one. Among all others were Christians and whatever. But there was no difference.
How was your experience in Government College Kefi? Because from Katsina Allah, you went to Kefi.
Yes, Katsina Allah was
one of the top
2 years in Kefi. I mean, in Katsina Allah. In Katsina Allah in middle 1, I went to middle 1 straight. No going to remove because we were taught English right from primary school. I was in middle 1 and 2. During my stay, I used to top the class. And we collected a few from middles 1 and 2, sit for entrance exam to government college. It was Zaria and Kefi then. Government College Zaria, Government College Kefi. And then they've selected, after sitting for the exam, if you are successful, well, there's no, it's a question of how much, the grading. So we were picked, 1 or 2 are sent to Zaria, and we were asked to go to Kefi. So we went to Kefi, opened the Kefi Government College in 1954.
You are the first student?
I was the first student in Kefi.
First set.
But first set started from Kaduna.
In Kaduna, yes.
That was late Abdu Abubakar, late quite a number of them, the former VC of ABU, Professor Neaya. He was among the first set in Kefi. They finished in Kaduna here.
Okay.
The very year they were completed, 54, they went in 49. They started at Barnawa here and completed. The very year they were ending, last year was our own first year in Kefi, from 1 and 2. People like, we went there to Kefi with people like later Paul Unongo, Abdullah Ibrahim San, and Professor Gyo. I think he's a medical doctor. He's in Benue today. So we opened the school there in 1957. We were mixed with others from Ilorin, from Kaba province then, from Plateau, and 1 or 2 from Zaria province, southern Zaria it used to be. We had Bulus Kagoro, I remember, they were from there. So this was it.
So from Kefi, you finished Kefi and you went straight into broadcasting?
Yes, from Kefi straight in 59 we started for the Cambridge. Ours was Cambridge School Certificate, not WAEC. So I decided, I felt the old man, my father he has already retired. He retired in 1950. And so I said, well,
You retired in Oktobo.
to work. Otupo. He
Yes.
retired and settled there.
Yes.
Because he had a house after staying in a place for about 30 years.
Yes.
So he decided to stay there. So I came over to Kaduna and I said the best thing is to get something doing to help him, or at least a reward, support him before he passes on, because at that time he was about 70 or so. So I joined the judicial department. H.O. Mohammed recruited me. At that time, the northernization policy was just starting. And I just went, as I was passing by the corridor, I saw him and I just knocked at the door, went to the office, greeted him, and I said, I'm looking for a job, sir. And he looked at me. He said, don't you know where people are being recruited? I said, yes, I know. Public Service Commission, sir. He said, why don't you? I said, yes, there is an elderly gentleman there, fair in complexion with poked face. Whenever he sees me, he will start writing. Even if I greet him, he hardly answers my greetings. He looked at me again, burst into laughter. He said, yes, it's because the way you dress. That's what he was saying.
How were you dressed?
Who are you tucked in? Okay. Who are right from school? Because the only time we use our kaftan and shirt is when going to the Friday mosque in Kefi. Otherwise, you tucked in. And when you are going for games, you wear the short and for games. So I used to that.
But our impression is that in those days, somebody with your schooling,
yes,
jobs should be easy.
Yes.
You had a secondary school education in one of the few top schools in northern Nigeria.
Yes. Yes, it was easy. But you see, coincidence depends on where you go, where you go. Because before we even finished, there were so many organizations coming to propagate their. For instance, I had wanted to go to forestry department because I was so interested in scouting, and so I was a troop leader in the school, in the college, and I want something dealing with natural forestry and so on. But when late Kali Imam, he was then the conservator of forests, he came and gave us some lecture and so on. And I approached him, and he said, but he looked at he said, but you are weak in mathematics. And so he was from University of Aberdeen at that time. He graduated from there and he was employed. So he said, why can't you change to either veterinary or something else? I said, okay, I'll do that. Then I applied for veterinary. I was called for interview in Makaji then. Then the veterinary officer said, but you did not sit for chemistry and physics. You only have biology. So you will find some difficulty in the future. Why not seek something in administration? And I said, okay. So that was how.
So you went to the judiciary just looking for a job, not because you are really keen.
No. Yeah. So when I went there, he asked me, he said, which school? I said, Government College, Kefi. He looked at it, he said, did you pass the exam? I said, yes. What was the evidence? I had a photocopy of the statement. I showed it to him. He just drew his law, gave me form to fill. Say, fill it, bring it tomorrow morning. And that's how I said. When I came, he just called one Mr. Eno. He was assistant chief clerk then. Say, Mr. Eno, let him go. Or they give him a dispatch clerk, third class clerk. That's how I started.
Why did you stay? You moved quickly from that.
Yes, I was there for a year. Then I went on leave. The old man, my dad was there, and he asked me. He said, he called me Malam because I'm answering his father's name. He said, Malam, where are you working? I said, in the judiciary. He said, Namu ko nasu. You know, this was the question.
Meaning the Sharia one?
The Sharia one or
the Western?
Western.
Yes.
And I said, well, we are working with some Western. He said, no. You change. If you have told me that you are working in the Sharia, yes, I agree. Luckily, NBC advertised for a program assistant. And then I was staying in an area where late Ambassador Alhaji Sani Kontagora, he developed interest in me. We used to follow him to go to Rigachukung area. In those days, it was a bushy area. He was interested in hunting birds. So in those days, guinea fowls and so on will be found over there. About after 5 o'clock, we'll go to there. Farmers after the guinea corn harvest and so on, they go about to pick the, what is it? He will just throw some stone, he find a fly, and then he will shoot into the air and catch a few. So he developed interest in me, and a friend of mine, Yusuf Ibrahim, he retired as Justice. He's now in Zaria. Justice Ibrahim, Yusuf Ibrahim. He said, who is he? He said, he's a friend of mine. He said, so we used to go together. And then he told him that he's also looking for employment in NBC. He said, NBC, are you, what is he looking for?
Alhaji Sani was then in NBC.
He was then the acting controller of NBC. And controller was in charge of the whole northern region in those days. So he said, what's your qualification? I said, the school certificate was Cambridge school certificate. He said, Karubuta. So I was called for interview together with the late Adamu Awuji, Mama Yakase, and others. So attended. I remember late Muhammad King, the late Emir of Kano, Alhaji Ado Bayero, was a member of the board then, and also Muhammad King and others were members of the board. So, and then the secretary of the NBC from Lagos, he came for the interview. And I remember Muhammad King asked me a question that, why do I like working in a radio station? Have I worked in areas? I said, no, I have no idea. Why do you want to? I said, well, because I'm interested. I used to listen to radio stations and so on. He said, which station do you listen to? I said, yeah, I used to listen to the BBC, excuse me, Voice of America, Modian Al-Qahira in Cairo then, Radio Pakistan, Radio Peking.
This were all in Hausa or
Hausa and English? Broadcast. So he said, which time? I told him the various time frequencies and so on. And then he said, if I'm a true listener of radio, when Pakistan and others, I mentioned Radio Pakistan, she said, when Pakistan and others are for their news, what do they say? I said, yes, after putting the signature tune, they will say, yeah, Radio Pakistan, hey. Then they will start the news. So they burst into laughter.
So indicates, yeah.
Yes. He said, who is the leader of Pakistan? I said, Marshal Ayub Khan. And that was the end of it. And I think a week later, I received a letter that I was successful in the interview as a program assistant, and I will be told general duties. So when I reported, I gave a month's notice to the judiciary because I allowed, there was a judge, Justice Skinner. In fact, he took me as an interpreter, translator in the court. I was following him around, going to Mina, Maiduguri, Jos, and other places. So when he was on leave, I gave a notice and joined the NBC.
You pulled out?
Pulled out, and that's how I started.
I think the highlight of your broadcasting career is when you became one of the pioneer star of the broadcasting company of Northern Nigeria, which is both radio and television.
Yes.
It appears also you spent the longest span
of
your career in the... Can you talk to us about it?
Yes. It is interesting. NBC, as a continuity announcer, one day I think the premier returned from one of his Middle East tours. The news bulletin.
This is Premier Ahmadu Bello.
Premier Ahmadu Bello, blessed memory. The news bulletin, the news reader was not around. The news bulletin was taken to the controller. The acting controller then was Alhaji El Nafati from Gombe State today. It used to be Bauchi. So he took the bulletin from his office downstairs to see who was the continuity announcer. So he met me there. He said, Karanta, And then he went to the other side, and I was looking at him through the glass. And he stood there. So when the time came, as I was seeing what was going on. So I started reading the news. I was shivering and so on. But
Because you're not supposed to read it.
I'm not
You
supposed
should
to
be a
read it.
newscaster.
You are a newscaster. So, but I took it. Since he gave it to me, there was nothing I could do. So I started reading the way I thought about it. I was shivering. Well, a whole controller to stand on me as an what is it? At the end of it, I said, well, I feel perhaps that's the end of the news. Tomorrow morning, I'll just get my sack letter for bungling up and so on. So the following morning, when I reported in the office, they said the controller wanted to see me. I said, well, that's the end of the news. I'll be sacked. So to my surprise, when I went to the office, I got to say, oh, baraka ka fishe mu kunya, a gode. Kai aiki daga yau zaka ci gaba da karanta labaru. You know, that was how I started. And then one morning, an NBC reported again. Then he called me to the office. That's about a month or so. He said, da kai, da Patrick Ichohe, da Joseph Babatunde, ku je Lafiya Road, ku sami Mr. Diamond. We tambaya Mr. Diamond, managing director na sabon radio da Sardauna zai kafa.
So this is a new radio station being set up by a white man? Mr. Diamond is a white man?
Mr. Diamond is a white man. He's a Greek Cypriot. He's a British Cypriot from, he was Cyprus under the colonial, what is it then? I think, I remember at that time, the rite was started, Famagusta and so on. The Archbishop Macarius was the leader then. So we reported, and he said, you Jibril? So called us, took in his car, straight to Government College, President Government College, Kaduna Government College. It was Technical Institute then. So we took her to the studio. There were the assembly hall of the students. We saw it was being partitioned as a temporary studio and so on. So we work in there. And that's how the question of asking you whether you apply or you are interested in going here or there, that's how I started with BCNN. And then I was started as a senior announcer. Remember, it was 15th March, 1962. The station was opened. Sardauna came with his cabinet, met us at the Technical Institute there in the studio. Martha Audu, late Martha Audu, Mrs. James Audu, was to start the television, and I opened the radio station. And since I'm already used to opening as a continuity announcer from the NBC, it was a sort of walkover. All I need to do was join the BBC when the tune of the Lily Bolero was on. Tarararan, 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 tarararan. Up to the end, then the 6 pips time instead of the BBC. So I tuned to this is the broadcasting company of Northern Nigeria transmitting on the time, and that's how it started.
Did you enjoy working in BCN, and why did you leave? Because
yes, I enjoy working. In fact, I enjoyed to the best of my ability, friends and so on. One thing with radio, it was the only, what is it? It was a powerful radio being heard all over, right up to the Cameroon Republic, Garua, Yaoundé, Benin Republic, Niger. In fact, at times up to Agadez. In fact, we used to receive letters from the Mediterranean areas that they had the news or as what is time. And it was the only with powerful transmitter were heard all over the north. And whenever there is any ceremony, installation of new emir or the governor touring or the premier touring, we used to follow in the Land Rover to cover the event. And as a result, we're able to go around, in fact, virtually all over the northern region. That was a fantastic experience. And then later on, when I became, after staying for about, I think, 2 years or so, I was sent to the BBC. This was in 1963.
For more training?
For more training in broadcasting. From the BBC, training in radio broadcasting. After completing the course in the BBC, because I was there when later President John Kennedy was assassinated. We were in training then. At the end of it, while I was preparing to come back, there was a letter sent that I should proceed to Granada Television in Manchester. So I went straight to, I was flown to Canada, Manchester. I was there for another 2-3 months, studied the television production and so on, before coming back finally in May or so in 1963, 64 rather. So that was, you can see all the training and so on. And I seized the opportunity to again, by correspondence, as I used to, London School of Journalism, in studying, having diploma in journalism. So I started, and when I came back, continued with correspondence, and later on, 1965, I think I got my diploma in journalism. So I really enjoyed it. It was my
Why
best
did you
time.
leave? Why did you leave?
I left
BCNN?
because I got some sort of frustration from my late in-law. He later became my in-law, Ahiru Modibo. Others were being promoted over and above me. But I knew why, because I used to challenge him that he should not move with some of these little kids for their private, what is it, and so on.
Private?
And, after work something.
Yes.
Private life, I'll call it.
Yes.
And our head then was Abba Zuru. I knew him.
Ahiru Modibo then was the head of
Sound broadcasting.
Sound broadcasting.
So it was under
The
him.
our general manager was Abba Zuru.
General manager was Abba Zuru. He was brought in. He was serving as administrative officer or senior admin officer in Sokoto province then, stationed in Gusau. Zuru. So he met us. And
he became a famous broadcaster.
Yes.
You would have thought that was his training.
No, well, you see, he's very straightforward, a real broadcast, because right from the time he was in University College Ibadan, he used to do his, during the holidays, part-time in broadcasting. He was a very keen broadcaster, a very honest and dedicated. And again, being under him, I would call him to the studio, tell him what is it. And after office hours, don't move about, but others move about with them and do their socializing and so on, and anything can go happen at that time. Abba Zoro also goes his own way, but everything of his in his own house. I'm sorry to say, being a head of department, I used to say, you must bring in the administrative aspect. You should not take yourself to be on the same level with everybody.
To mix socially.
And that was from my own understanding, and that was my what is it?
The issue with
with
the boss, yes.
Boss. And later on, God being what He is, I got married to his niece, and I felt that in our tradition, it would not be a good idea. It's never done to find arguing with your in-law, open sort of. So I decided one morning, it was Martha Audu, I remember, because they were, in fact, I was taken back to continuity to do what I left before I even went for training. So I took it for a year. I said, well, and for 4 years or so, I was on incremental basis without any, while others who came behind me later, the Mwaugi and others, were all taking over. But I didn't. I was doing my job. So one morning, Martha Audu just came and said, boss, what are you doing? What is it? Can't you look for something else? I said, what is wrong? I'm doing my job. I said, no, we are not happy the way things are. What is it? In fact, she pressurized me that, look, marketing board is looking for a PRO. You should apply. I said, look, Martha, this is northern Nigeria. I know they've already made up their mind, perhaps, who should be there. She pressurized me. In fact, the last day, she forced me rather to apply. Reluctantly, I wrote. She took it personally to either whoever, what is it? Surprisingly, a week later, I was invited for interview, marketing board. They were looking for PRO, somebody who will perhaps advertise or broaden information about marketing board. So when I went for the interview, luckily, then I met two gentlemen who were old boys of government college, Kefi. Late Abdul Abubakar and late Tanko Kuta. Tanko Kuta was our head boy. Late Abubakar was number one on the register. So they looked at my certificate and so on. He said, I think Abdul Abubakar asked me, you said you went to Kefi and so on. Can you recognize anybody around who has been to Kefi? I said, yes, sir. I said, you are our head boy, Tanko Kuta, the name of the school, number so and so in house A. And then sir, you are Abdul Abubakar, number one on the school list. You are in Kaduna house D, Kaduna house. The other one, house A, Benue house. Then the chairman happened to be later Shetima Sokoto, Alhaji Inuwa of blessed memory. And he has been to be a friend of Alhaji Sandu Kontugora, late ambassador, who also was my in-law. He said, so
the interview was
exactly,
over.
exactly.
Yes,
So that was the end of it. So when I left,
yes, the job was yours.
The job was what it is.
So I think this marked a period in your life, from what I read, where you now move from broadcasting to administration.
Yes.
And also we are moving from marketing board to livestock to mining corporation.
Right. I'm back again to.
So I mean, why all these sort of movements?
Yes, you see, with the marketing board, changes were coming up. There was a reorganization in the marketing board, and then I was posted to Gusau as area manager in administration, because somebody, late Alhaji Nahuche, was to be appointed from the Northwest. And he said, no, he was getting old, he wants to retire in civil service, he doesn't want to go to government. So Yahya Gusau said I should be posted there, that he knows me. I was once caretaker of his house, in one of his houses in Sadona Crescent, and I was very, I looked after the house properly, and everything was in order. So if I go there, I would take very good care of the area. That's how I was posted there. I was on grade level, I think 12 or so, and then I was sent to act on grade level 15. So I was there for 2 years. Then I said, well, since I've been posted to administration, the best thing is to do something, go back to the university and study administration and get something properly to back me up. And then I applied to ABU. They called us for interview, sitting examination, oral and written and so on. Then a professor from Pittsburgh University in the United States, he looked at me and my CV, he said, Alhaji, with your experience and so on, you should go straight for master's, not a diploma. I said, but master's was not around at that time. So he said, okay, you should go for the diploma. That's how I was. So when a letter was written to me to go for a diploma, I came back to Kaduna. I was sent off over there. So accidentally, I went to late Yahya Gusau to report that
Going back to school.
Going back to school. He said, on whose authority? Oh my God. And I said, but the general manager has approved that. Late Isma. He approved that. So he picked the phone there and then before me said, Alhaji Isma, Kazo. So when Isma came, He pounced on him. He said, "Dan me za ku sa to na tura shi ne da ya aiki da mutanen mu, ya maganin mutanen mu. Yes, ya za ku tura to a koma gidan jiya ko ba za shi ba." Oh my God! So I burst into tears and left the office. And with the useful words, I said, "Well, if that is the case, if he's here today, tomorrow he may not be around. I want some." So I'm no longer interested in. And that's how I changed. So I came to Kaduna here, met Lema Jibril. He was the director, I think chief development officer then. I met him. I said, "Ranka dai ina son aiki ko aikin messenger a bani." He looked at me. Said, "Ya me ina kake aikin sa?" Ina Gusau na ce, "Me ya kai ka kauye da shi?" Na ce, "Ranka dai ina aiki ne a can." Ya ce, "To bari mu kai ka wurin Alhaji Hamisu Kano." So late now. So went to Alhaji gashi nan muka san shi Kaduna yana aikin rediyo ne da shi. Muka ce, to ai kuwa muna neman wanda zai mana aikin.
So they're looking for.
To za mu tallata. So I left. A few weeks later they advertised and I applied.
Yeah.
She called me for interview again. Luck being on my side. Late Dr. Bukar Shaib was the permanent secretary. He was the chairman of the board of the interview. When he came, we all stood up, greeted him, because I knew him as a friend to Yahya Gusau, Ambassador Sani Kontewe, Muhammad and so on. He looked at me and said, "Me ka zo nan?" Ce sa, "Na zo neman assistant secretary ne." He kept quiet for some. He said, "To." So he went in. Later on, I was called in. When I greeted them, sat down. He said, "Alhaji Hamisu Kano, wannan mun san shi gidan rediyo ne da shauransu. Ba wani assistant secretary. Ku ba shi aikin PRO da shauransu ne daidai da albashin assistant secretary da yake nema." That was the end of it. See how I moved to livestock.
Why did you go to mining in Jos?
Mining again. I wrote, when I went to ABU with livestock, after a year's service, Alhaji Hamisu Kano allowed me to go to
the
diploma in advanced diploma in public administration. So I wrote on dairy production in northern Nigeria as a thing, project. So I gave him a copy. He took it home, studied it. Following morning, he called me. He said, "Ka taba aikin huji?" Ce, "No, sir." "Ka taba aiki?" Ce, "No, sir." So a week later, in the evening, I was at Mando then. When I was leaving, the secretary was called me with a letter. He gave me a letter. I looked at the letter. I was being sent to VOM to take care of Madara Limited. The general manager there, one Mr. Davis, was proceeding on leave. They said I should go and take over from him, look after the place for 3 months until he comes back. I said, but everything will be taken care of. He will be leaving tomorrow morning, afternoon. So you should meet him, take over from him before he leaves. They don't want it given to any other person. So I left the following morning, very early in the morning, proceeded to VOM. And I was there 3 months. It took me a whole year. They wouldn't let me come back until Plateau politics started. They don't want somebody, a Hausa man, or what is it? And a classmate of mine hinted me of the intention of the people that if I'm asked to take over, I should not, because they said they would set the place on fire and so on. So I informed the authorities. They said, yeah, they had security reported that some people are, So I was seconded back. While I was in VOM, the general manager of of Mining Corporation, Rilwan Lukman, and we're all late now, the chief accountant from Yobe then, I think he was from Fune local government, came round to inspect to look at what is going on there. So I took them round. At the end of it, I gave them some products of the So I went. When I came back to Kaduna, a month later, I was told that Rilwan Lukman was looking for me. And I spoke to him on phone. He said, yes, he wanted to see me and so on. So that I should meet him in Zaria, because his mother was alive then. His mother was in Ungwan Kalifi at that time. So I met him there. He said, they're looking for experienced people like me and so on. I should come over to them and so on. I said, but I'm all right with what? He said, no, they'll advertise. And so reluctantly, I applied, went for interview again. Horson Wright was the general manager, was the permanent secretary, was the chairman of mining corporation then. They asked me, for the first time I was in the type of interview. They assembled us, I think, were about 8 of us. They will ask one question for all of us, everybody to answer in his own way. And then the final question, Mr. Horson Wright asked me that the military was leaving. What do I think will be their legacy? He asked them. They all gave their own. So it came to my turn. I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, the military will be remembered for transportation, road development, bridges, airports. They opened up all this. He said, where and where? I said, yes. Lokoja Bridge, Benue Bridge, Kasanala Bridge. There's a bridge in Cross Rivers. Itu. There's a place, there's a long bridge over there, all built during, what is it? I said, this will open up movements and transportation. The military will be remembered for this. And Makadi Bridge was also built during the second bridge. I said, yes. He said, how do you know? I said, yes, I've been to all these places. He said, how? I said, how do you come about here too? I said, yes, I was to attend Nigeria Institute of Management annual general meeting in Calabar. So I went to Lagos to took a plane to Calabar. I missed the plane, so I decided to go to Port Harcourt. And from Port Harcourt, I took a taxi to Calabar, and we went by road, and I saw what is it? So he said, gentlemen, this man knows Nigeria more than all of us around here, and that was
that's how you got the job.
That's how I got the job.
I think, viewers, we will stop there before we come back to ask Alhaji Inuwa about his last stint in the media, which was in the New Nigeria.
That's right.
And then his life in the private sector, and eventually a retirement.
Yes.
Join us again shortly. Thank you. Welcome back to Reminiscences with Alhaji Inuwa Jibril, the veteran broadcaster and administrator. So after all this going around as administrator to various places, as you explained, you also suddenly came back to the New Nigeria.
Yes.
Why was that?
I was a secretary, then later on director of administration in the Kaduna State Broadcasting Corporation. Then I was there after 2 years. I took leave of absence, study leave, went back to the university for a master's degree in public administration, which was granted me with study leave and so on. When I came back, I served for another year or two. And then I discovered that, I started marking time. There's no more, I've reached the limit for in fact, for another 2 years.
Age then?
Not age, yes. The salary, came to the bar.
Yeah.
And there was no other, the only thing is to be general manager. And general manager position is political. And since I'm not...
that is the BCNN.
That's KSBC, Kaduna State Broadcasting Corporation.
Kaduna State, okay.
Yes, from live. So I decided, I said, since I've come to my bar and I'm served for 2 years or so, I marked time for 2 years. So the best thing is, if there's a chance, so New Nigeria was looking for, I think, the personal manager on a grade higher. I think grade level 15 or thereabout. So I applied, and I was interviewed, and I was taken. So all along I've been moving on transfer of service, not resigning. It was on transfer of service from one organization to the other. So it was a continuous service.
So you are still in the New Nigeria was not a happy one, because you seem to have left
Well, I left
abruptly.
after 2 years. Again, it was Mohammed Haruna. We were not in good terms. Not that we were quarreling and so on. There was one day I advised him again.
This was the managing director then?
He was managing director. I advised him that please, whenever you come to the office, allow us, your subordinates, to brief you of the situation and so on, up to say 10, before you allow friends to come in. Because when they come in, it's not suitable for us to be talking about organization before outsiders. And it didn't go well. That didn't go well with him. And as an administrator, I felt that is what it is. A journalist like myself, but I'm in administration. I know what it is. It's not everything that you put it in the open, because you never can tell where he will go and spread whatever is the case. So one morning I came to the office and he called me. He said, pounce on me, why am I trying to look down on him or underrate, trying to undermine him or something like that. It was a nasty, I was shocked. In fact, I removed my glass and tears were coming out of because I never thought of anything of that nature. And I said, okay. Then after that, we went to the meeting again. He will allow us, we'll be there waiting for him. He'll be discussing and so on with friends and so on. He will come whenever he likes without apology and anything. I looked around the table. I said, oh no. None of them is my age mate and so on. It's high time
So was that a factor because you felt you are much older?
Yes, I'm much older,
so
and
you didn't fit in.
I don't fit in, and he doesn't seem to be he doesn't quite understand what administration means. He feels there's a difference between being an editor in a paper and being an administrator. When you're managing director, we are managing the whole organization and so on. So I said, well...
but it's a big decision to leave your job. At that stage.
Yes. But I felt, look, all along I've been going on transfer, so I have years of, gave my pension and so on. So when I gave 3 months notice, during that period, late General Ushishi learned of it. He just called me, said, Alan, you want to live in Nigeria? So I said, yes. When are you? I said, please, I would like you to come set up my farm, set up the administrative setup and so on. I would like you, we are giving you whatever New Nigeria is giving you. And
so how was the experience in the private sector? Did you make money there better than this?
Well, no, you see, when I went to Niger first, I set up everything was raw and so on. And in fact, I wrote the condition of service and everything for him. The money was not, but at least you have the peace of mind, you have the respect, they give you and they listen to you when you give an advice. The managing director was an Israeli. Listen to me, give advice, whatever. Whenever I set up meeting, I say this is it. And I used to go to the immigration and others to inform them of what we need and so on. So I have that respect and I have peace of mind. So that was it. I was there for 2 years. Again, my late Madam Jado, of blessed memory, he had a share in Donia Airline. And he said, according to what he told me, because we worked together on BCNN, I was an advert manager of BCNN then while I was in program.
He was the advert manager?
Yes, and he knew my worth, and so he said, look, we want you, please, this place, even the security men and so on, people of some sort of there are so many things going, come and set up I said, well, I have no quarrel with any, So in fact, I have to write personally to General Ushishi to allow me
to leave.
Because to leave. And I asked him, so please, this is it. It's still the same word. If there's anything around, I'm still around, I'll come and give my advice and so on. And that's how I left and joined the Donia as director of admin. And when I went, I set up things, made sure the security men, the laborers on the farm, everybody was giving his own due and so on. And the first thing I remember, when I came, we went around, and they said, where are you praying? Where is the praying? What is it? And so on. They said, there was. So I approached the general manager at the old airport. I said, look, this is an airport. Important people will be passing through, and it will be time for prayers. If there's no place for prayers, it means it will be a minus on your side. This is northern Nigeria. I said, that's so. I said, I should go around and see. So went around, spotted a place. So within a week, the place was set up. Then, God being worried, then I think late Abubakar Audu, late Inuwa, governors Niger and Kogi and so on, then they were on their way transit to Abuja or Lagos. So it was time, I had to pray. So went to the. So I led them in prayers. He was upstairs watching. At the end of prayers, he called me. When they left, he called me and said, so what you told me, I saw you were leading them, all the governors were behind you. So, well, he doesn't understand what is it. So
at what point did you stop working? It seems all your life is our work from one establishment to the other. When did you stop working?
This was in 1994. And I said, oh my God. I went to Owerri for a meeting. I think it was Institute of Personnel Management or something like that. We stayed at Mode Hotel in Owerri, owned by late Ekwemi,
yes,
Deputy Vice President. We stayed there after the orders, came back, went in a vehicle, official vehicle, and so on. Came back, the managing director, the German, and I put up a request and said, look, this is it, and so on. Went with vehicle, petrol, with this, that. He said, this is too much, and so on. I said, look, Mr. Gentleman, I went to him. I said, Mr. Glegor, it's not an aircraft flying straight directly like an arrow. This is road. But if you feel this is too much, ask somebody to go the same route I took. Let him come back to you with, see whether there's a difference. From there, and I said, look, if the manager director should question my integrity, I feel there's no need for me to continue serving with. So I gave 3 months notice.
So you stopped working since 1994.
1994.
How do you survive?
Oh, well, goodwill. In fact, I was writing articles and so, not that I've been paid, but I got my gratuity. My children, I believe I brought them up, all working and so on.
So how many wives and children do you have?
Now we're left with 2. I went up to 3, but now we're left with 2. And these 2 have been together now with the senior wife, late Ahir Modobo's niece, for now 53 years. And the second from Saulawa Katsina, also niece of later Isa Katsina. We've been together now for 48 years.
48?
8 years. So we've just passed, and we've been together.
Then how many children?
Not many. 19 alive.
Alhamdulillah.
10 men, 10 young men, 9.
All grown up?
Grown up, working in various positions. Architect, lawyer, administrators, businessmen, and so on.
So what do you do with your time? Do you have hobbies, farming, other activities?
No. I farmed for some, but I discovered that you farm for others. They cheat you and so on. So in fact, I will continue reading, writing. In fact, right now, my old school has commissioned me to write.
Your old school?
Yes, Government College, Kefi, writing history of the school, which I did. The first batch, 20 years ago, I was asked to bring it up to date. So I'm on it right now. So I read at least 2-3 papers every day, writing, listening.
How do you keep fit? Are there any particular things you don't eat?
Just walk in the early morning and after prayers, go around. And because I remember, during the earlier one, my retirement and so on, I used to play hockey. In fact, right from school, right from Form 2, I was in hockey 11 up to Form 6. So when I came out, we joined Kaduna Flickers with late Sani Kasina and others were playing hockey and so on, going around. So I just walking, so on. That keeps me fit. And that's
Any dietary restrictions? Do
no,
you
no,
know?
no,
Yes.
no, no diabetes, no. What is that? Eat normal. What is it?
So you enjoy your two.
Tuwo and miyan kuka and so on. I like it so much. So what is it? And take yogurt from time to time. But I don't like take oranges. Right? What is it? Banana. I don't take mineral. What is it? Because so that's what is it.
Thank you, Alhaji Inuwa Jibril, for
Thank you,
this very insightful look into your life. And viewers, thank you for joining us in Reminiscences, in this episode of Reminiscences. And I hope we will see you another time.
Thank you.
Goodbye.